Hey, my name is Egil Wulf. I have a Master of Science degree from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology in Trondheim. I've been looking into the theories of the collapses of the World Trade Centers, and I think what has come forward is inadequate. It is the National Institute of Standard and Technology and the Federal Emergency Management Agency who has come up with what looks like the most official theories of the collapses of the World Trade Centers. I'll first show you what I think is the main problem with the FEMA theory. The problem with the FEMA theory is that sagging of the floors will require a very high temperature and that pancaking of the floors will take too long time, about 30 seconds, and it was only 11 available. When one reads the report from the National Institute of Standard and Technology, the impression is that they actually don't understand how the buildings could collapse. But as the buildings actually did collapse, they give a theory that the collapse started in the center columns. They say that due to the crash, the fire protecting material on the steel were torn off, hence exposing the steel to the flames, and they say that at about 600 degrees Celsius the steel will start to creep, that is to collapse. Even if NIST has a huge data model of the World Trade Centers, they give no indication how the collapses could really happen. As a result of this, a lot of conspiracy theories has been brought forward. I think, however, that both FEMA and NIST has overlooked a technical explanation of the collapses. So, if you give me a few minutes, I will try to explain to you what I think happened when the World Trade Centers collapsed. This is a picture showing the wall elements when they erect the building. If you look in the ring there is the long trusses, which I believe is the main cause of collapse. These trusses are about 18 meters long, and at the exterior wall they are connected to the wall with a gusset plate, as you can see within the circle. At the inner end, the trusses are connected with two finger-thick bolts. That's shown in the circle. When the trusses are heated, they will elongate, and about 21.7 millimeter per 100 degrees Celsius. Before the fire, the connection will look like this. After 50 degrees, we have this picture, and a torque is set up, bending the trusses upwards. And at 200 degrees, I think we will have this picture, and the bolts are torn off. When the exterior wall loses its connection at the inner core, it will be unstable and buckle outwards, which will cause the floors to collapse downwards. The three floors in the way of the fire will start to fall at the inner end and go just before the rest of the building falls. The inner core will now have a space to collapse into, and it will also send a lot of debris out through the top of the walls towards the World Trade Center 3. Here you see the reinforcements at the top of the building, meaning that the top will fall as one unit. Since the support of the top in way of the fire is now gone, the top will fall through the big tube created by the walls down to the basement. In the aftermath of the big disasters, a lot of new information has been brought forward, and I'm sorry to say that I agree that the theories of FEMA and NIST does not comply with this new information. The theories of NIST and FEMA requires a temperature in the steel of about 500 to 600 degrees. That is above what one believes could have been there. 300 to 400 degrees is much more likely. The towers collapsed in 11.5 seconds in the World Trade Center 1, and with the theory of FEMA it will have taken at least 30 seconds. A series of explosions were heard before the collapse, and in my theory it will be when the floors or bolts are towards the inner wall are breaking, and that will come in series also. When the World Trade Center 1 collapsed, a lot of debris was spread horizontally towards the World Trade Center 3. And the explanation for this is when the top comes down and the inner core collapses into the same volume of air, it will create overpressure which will force the debris out of the upper part of the wall. Almost everything in the buildings were crushed into very small pieces, and this can be explained by the top of the building falling along the hanging floors and squeezing everything on the floors into very, very small pieces. Up to now it has been very difficult to explain the collapse of the World Trade Center 7. My theory can do that, as there was a fire in the 11th, 12th and 13th floor, and that may have caused during the 7.5–8 hours the building to collapse. This is explained in more detail in a paper we have made, and I'll send it to you if you contact me on the email address given above. It is said that the studies in the US have a cost of more than $20 million. So one can ask if it is possible for other people to come up with anything new within the technical area. My experience is that this happens more often than the technicians like to admit. That longitudinal expansion of steel can cause trouble is very well known from the railway industry, and I also met the same cause of accidents in the shipping industry. I'm therefore not surprised that this mechanism can also give trouble in a high building, especially when it is exposed to an accident which is so very rare, that is burning fire on 3 floors. To avoid similar catastrophes in the future, it's of course very important to know what really happened to the World Trade Centers. If more detailed studies prove that my theory is correct, I think that will give considerable changes to how especially inner and outer trusses will be designed.